Exploration and navigation. We're all used to navigating roads, city blocks, even the internet. But have you ever charted your course through a watershed? Today we're going to explore the South River Watershed in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. And to assist us, I've enlisted the help of our fishy friend, Southy, the mouthy South River fish. To be more specific, we're taking a deeper dive into the South River Watershed. The South River is beautiful and serene as it winds its way up through the valley. However, there's more to its history than meets the eye. Human settlements, starting with indigenous populations, have been part of the South River story for 12,000 years. That's 12 millennia. Today, the watershed is widely known for outdoor recreation and an abundance of nature. Some of the watershed is extremely rare and unique. Grassland prairies and sinkhole ponds provide ecosystems for plants, birds, and other types of wildlife. As the river flowed into more modern ages, it also became home to a robust succession of agricultural and industrial enterprises. Industrial development also caused some problems, most notably the release of a chemical called Mercury into the water, which is dangerous for both humans and the environment. From 1929 to 1950, mercury was used as part of rayon production at the former DuPont plant in Waynesboro. Some of the chemical was released into the watershed and found its way into the river environment. The South River Science Team has been working for 20 years to find solutions to mercury contamination, and now 6 riverbanks in Waynesboro have already completed the mercury remediation process. That's right, Southy. It is home to a lot of creatures. But mercury is only one part of the story of the South River and its watershed. This watershed, I hear tell, is full of fascinating treasures. Would you care to join us as we navigate and explore the South River Watershed? Let's talk to our friend Tom to better understand what a watershed is.
I like to think about watersheds as land area. So even though the name contains water, it's really the land that dictates the watershed. It's the land that drains to that river. How we behave on the land, how we manage the land impacts that water quality. And that's the importance of watersheds, realizing that there's a connection between the water that runs across that land area and what we see when we get to a point in the river.
One interesting fact about the South River is that, despite the word south in its name, the river actually flows in a northward direction, right up along the Shenandoah Valley. Southy, you seem lost. Are you looking for the source of the South River? Nancy can help us get oriented.
You've got the village of Greenville, which is after Stanton. It's the oldest platted or surveyed out community in Augusta County, and it was right on the Great Wagon Road, which is now today we know that as Route 11. The South River proper goes through there, but it arises a quarter of a mile away in a spring just on the west side of Greenville, and then on the other side of Greenville, on the east side, right up against the mountain, those cold springs obviously being the headwaters of part of the South River.
Let's continue our navigation downstream to the city of Waynesboro, where we find a mix of old and new industries, recreational opportunities, and several very popular places to catch some fish. Don't worry, Southy. You're not the only fish in the river down here, and being a trout, you'll love the cold water in the river right around Waynesboro. I've heard people say the cold water originates from an abundance of underground water springs.
I think the most unique thing is the springs.
Corner Springs, Baker Springs, Loth Springs. Waynesboro is rich in springs.
It is, to my knowledge, the largest spring creek that we have in Virginia, or at least spring influence creek.
Our South River exploration is going to take us all the way through the communities of Dooms, Cremora, Harriston, the famous Grand Caverns near Grottos, and eventually to Port Republic. All of these communities have unique histories involving the South River. Local high school teacher Tim has a clever concept that everyone has a watershed address.
So watershed address, you find your closest stream or river and you begin going downhill. And you go downhill on your map until you can't go downhill anymore and you've reached the ocean. And so our watershed address would be standing here, South River, and then as it joins the middle river, forms the South Fork of the Shenandoah, which then joins the Potomac, which then goes to the Chesapeake Bay, which then, of course, is with the Atlantic Ocean. So that would be our watershed address standing here at the edge of the South River. Just having a student map their watershed address and see the connectedness that they have to their downstream neighbors, and that anything that happens in Waynesboro is going to show up in Grottoes, it's going to show up in Luray, it's going to show up in the Chesapeake Bay. And so those ideas of, well, wait a second, what you do here does matter. It does.
Well, Southy, you may want to stay right here where the water is nice and cold. As we've seen, there's a lot to explore in the South River Watershed. To learn more about the Mercury remediation, the Virginia Department of Health Fish Consumption Advisory in place for the South River and South Fork Shenandoah, or the Promotores de Salud program, visit southriverwatershed.org.